You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the Natural Green Lawn and Landscape Studios. Before we get back to our guest on the show today, property manager Tiara Gale with Colonial Property Management out of Mesquite, Nevada. She's talking to us about an anti-bullying law that legislators in the state of Nevada are introducing specific to HOAs. Before we do that, I want to let everybody know, of course, that we are brought to you by American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency, and Extreme Exteriors. You can count on Extreme Exteriors for expert installation of exterior siding, roofing, soffits, fascia decks, windows, and more. With their knowledge and experience, they can design the perfect solution to make your home beautiful and energy efficient, saving you maintenance and money for years to come. Give them a call, 763-441-1334. It's time to hear from the Community Associations Institute. The CAI Minute is brought to you by New Concepts Rental Management. Whether you're an accidental landlord or a seasoned investor, New Concepts Rental Management can help you achieve your financial goals. New Concepts Rental Management can advise and guide you through every aspect of the business. Give us a call at 952-922-2500.
Are you a member of the Community Associations Institute? For nearly 40 years, CAI has provided education and resources to volunteer homeowners who govern community associations and the professionals who support them. Visit caionline.org to learn more. The address again is caionline.org. CAI helps community associations board members by providing online resources, in-person training, and hard copy publications written by association management experts. CAI offers community managers professional development, networking opportunities, and a certification program that is established as the industry standard nationwide. Minnesota has its own chapter of the Community Associations Institute to bring resources and tools from community associations around the country right to your home. Visit www.cai-mn.com to learn more and become a member of CAI today. Your community and management company will benefit from your involvement. Join the Community Associations Institute today at cai-mn.com and click on membership.
We're talking to Tiara Gale from Mesquite, Nevada. And it's great that you took some time to be with us on the show today, Tiara. And we've been talking about this anti-bullying bill. And I said in our first segment here, boy, it just... I get tired sometimes, do we really need another piece of legislation? And you said you felt that way too, but you feel that on second look, you thought that it was probably okay because it helps to underline, underscore things where you think people might be oblivious to their behavior in an HOA?
Right.
Okay. The one thing that you said in your article, and this was found in the Mesquite Citizen Journal, and I thought this was very well said. You said, legislating an emotion is tricky. Talk about that for a moment.
Well, it is tricky, but, even trickier, what are the defined parameters of harassment? Do you have to call someone a name so many times, or do so many emails have to be sent before it's a misdemeanor? So legislating an emotion is tricky, and it leaves a lot up to interpretation, which I think is why it's so important to be reasonable in this. I don't know that there's a better way that it could be written, because it is different for everybody. It is an emotion.
Yeah, and you're so right. That is what makes laws like this very hard to. I think it's going to be hard to enforce, because when you're talking about an emotion, you're talking about someone's feelings.
Right.
And so I guess the standard for that person is, well, it doesn't matter, like you said, does it happen 2 times? Does it happen 3 times? Is it this word that a person says? Is it a person being so close to my face, yelling at me at a decibel level? No, it is all about my feelings. And if my feelings say at this point in time, my feelings feels bad to me, then that becomes the standard. I mean, how do you deal with something like that?
I think, if anything, I would hope that just knowing that the law exists will help curb the harassment in general. I also think that a couple of these cases have to be brought up first to have some sort of example to go on for other people to say, okay, these cases have gone. This case is a lot like mine. It didn't go through. It wasn't successful. Maybe this is not the standard that they're looking for.
So hopefully,
but eventually there will be a standard, once this law is in effect for long enough.
Well, you bring up a good point. Once a law does go on the books, it allows for a precedent case to be set.
Yes.
That kind of does set the standard moving forward. But one of the things I was thinking about when you brought out that idea about legislating motions is tricky, I also thought of the idea, shouldn't we be dealing just strictly with behavior and not feelings? Because at the end of the day, and I think we both know this, being in HOA management, there's a lot of people that probably don't like you from any given day,
right?
because of the message that you're sharing,
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And so I don't care what people think of me. I care about how people act on those feelings. If, for example, a person may just absolutely detest me. Okay, that's fine. If they're civil in the same room and coarse words don't need to be said, but it's when that person then starts raising their voice and then, more importantly, takes their fist and pushing it towards my face. That is a behavior. That is something that to me is not subjective, but very objective.
Right.
You know what's happened when something has gone wrong here, and I just think that we should be dealing more with behavior and not feelings. I think it's going to be very difficult. Do you see that there's going to be some issues with people ramping, allowing this to kind of ramp themselves up in an HOA, and
I think that there will be some of that in the beginning. I think as far as legislating behavior, though, we do have that in other laws. Of course, if somebody hits somebody, it's going to be assault. So I don't think that necessarily needs to be addressed, for HOAs. There's no question about that's assault no matter what. Yeah. I think name calling, though, and some of the badgering that does go on between members of an HOA, I think that is what has been underlying, and there hasn't been a lot of news about that. Like you said, bullying, it's all in the news. It's in schools. It's with teachers, what have you. But it really hasn't been brought up with HOAs, and it does happen. I think that it's going to be very tricky. It's going to be a very tricky law, especially in the first year, probably even several years. And I'm sure there will be amendments to it to try to make it a little bit more specific, and I don't think that there's going to ever be a perfect law for this. But again, I hope just knowing that it's there, that it is possible to actually face a criminal charge for this, will make people think twice before doing this.
Well, let me ask you one other thing here. You wrote in that article, too, and that's how I got you to get on the radio show here. You said that you felt that the key to this legislation to being useful, you said, is not let it become an excuse to not solve a problem and not make peace. Talk about that for a moment, please.
I think that the idea of fostering a community where there isn't a hostile environment doesn't just fall on the people who are harassing or not harassing. It falls on everybody. So even though there is this statute that says, hey, if you harass me, I can file a charge against you, that doesn't mean that the board and homeowners shouldn't still work on the business in the community. They shouldn't walk on eggshells. You need to get things out. You need to discuss things. You need to make decisions, and they're not always popular, but it needs to happen.
Yeah.
And so you just can't let it get personal, and that's what happens all the time. And I understand that it's your home, but you have to be able to differentiate between what's good for the entire HOA and what maybe you personally feel.
Yeah. One of the things that Socrates said so long ago about being able to have a great discussion, he said one is that there needs to be candor, and there also needs to be goodwill.
Right.
You need to have both those things in place to be able to to have someone be able at the end of the day say, let me tell you what I think without worrying about someone just taking a great offense.
Which is exactly
important.
True. And you just, I fear that this will be used as a weapon, which won't be good for anybody. I mean, I think the ultimate goal for any community is to make it a place that people want to live, and it just won't happen if the police are called every time there's a small disagreement between neighbors.
Yeah, and to be able to see people get beyond when I see in an HOA where people are initially upset because they didn't get their way, they find out they're in the minority, and whatever that is, to be able to see that person, be able to, at the end of that discussion, at the end of the vote, to be able to say, okay, that was it, and then to move on and to still be neighbors.
Right.
That is wonderful. And I got to say, I still think that happens more often than not in HOAs.
It absolutely does.
I think sometimes people get the idea because the only things you hear about in the news are the things that are sensational.
Exactly, which is so unfortunate. Yeah. It's so unfortunate. But I see a lot more good in my day-to-day than I do bad. And I think that most people who are familiar with HOAs would say the same.
Yeah. Well, Tiara, thanks so much for taking some time to be on the show today.
Sure, thank you.
I really appreciate it. Folks, we're going to take a break right now. That was Tiara Gale from Colonial Property Management in Mesquite, Nevada. Thanks again. And we will go take this break right now, but don't go away. We've got a lot more of Where You Live after these messages.